You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona Lewis, and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Biz-Souls. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen.
Yes, and today we have Leandro Cartelli, except he's
not Italian.
Yes, he is, but he's in Buenos Aires.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. With 15 plus years leading talent acquisition teams in global companies like Accenture, I'm going to demolish these. Is it Boehringer Ingelheim?
Boehringer Ingelheim.
Boehringer Ingelheim. Okay. Yeah. And Pedidos Ya?
That was perfect.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And DeliveryHero, that one I got. Leandro decided to bring that expertise to new growing businesses, so he launched Lana Talent. He is passionate, about helping businesses grow and succeed, and he believes it's key to find amazing talent that not only performs well, but is also a perfect cultural fit. Today, his focus is on supporting small and medium-sized businesses, especially those that don't always have access to the same large talent strategies as large corporations. Through Lana Talent, he helps them tap into incredible talent across Latin America, his home region, and one he's deeply committed to, offering not just world-class expertise, but also a smart, cost-effective way to scale. His core principles for TA were business partners, process experts, data-driven brand ambassadors, and candidate carers, always agile and flexible, innovative, and with a deep understanding of the market. Whoa. Okay. Woo. That was a lot. So welcome, Leandro.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for going through all of that. I know that was a lot.
That was a lot. And I did it without breathing. I'm pretty impressed with myself.
You did great. I mean, I had one line in there and I meant to say he's not in Italy. And next thing you know, he's not Italian. So, Leandro, the question we always start was what did you want to be when you grow up? Did you want to get into business consulting or do you want to be something else?
I don't know. Does anyone want to get into consulting or recruiting when they're young? So,
right. It's either a cowboy or HR consulting,
So I do have to be honest. There were three things. This is funny. There were three things I wanted to be when I was a kid. I'll start with the boring one. I'll go and then go to the fun ones. The first one was a manager. And don't ask me about what. I saw movies. I saw The Office. I saw the building. I was like, I want to be a manager. What that means, I didn't know. But then the fun was where I wanted to own a restaurant because I loved every time I went to a restaurant, I saw the owner walking around and interacting with people. I loved that. And then I also wanted to be the president of the country. Huh? Yeah, I had no idea what politics meant and what it meant to be a president. So that, when I grew up, that quickly went away.
So related to this, now, were you born in Italy?
No, I'm originally from Argentina, Buenos Aires. My grandparents from my father's side, they are from Italy.
Okay.
So there's a lot of Italian and Spanish immigration in Argentina. Right. I'm from the Italian side.
Okay. Very, very good. And where in Argentina are you?
I'm in Buenos Aires. So
Buenos Aires? Okay.
Yeah, Buenos Aires. So if you think about the state of Buenos Aires, it has around 60% of the population, and 40% of the population of the entire country is either in the city of Buenos Aires or the surrounding areas. So pretty much, 40% of the country is just, in that little.
Evidently, that's the place to be.
And in terms
for sure.
And in terms of international companies and businesses in that area, that's where the majority of the businesses are.
Yes. Well, yes, but more and more there's other cities and states. So, for example, Cordoba is another big city where there's a big tech hub. Rosario as well, it's another city in the state of Buenos Aires. So, most companies are in Buenos Aires, Argentina, in the country, Buenos Aires, country, Argentina, city, Buenos Aires. Yeah. But then, with remote work, companies have started to take advantage of other locations, maybe lower cost within the country. There's also other universities that, they can tap into the younger talent there. And so that's why they expanded as well.
And just to follow up on that, since you mentioned it, one of the things you wanted to talk about was the value of remote work.
Yeah.
And so, do you want to...
What's your take on it? Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's a debate, right? Lately, more so than ever, right? When COVID hit, everyone was, we're going to be remote, and everyone was at home, and we believed that was it. And then suddenly you see big companies just going back to the office. What I do, I always say I've been one of the first remote workers. I was doing it in 2012, so long time ago, and I always found it great, right? The flexibility, the ability to fit sort of the work in my personal life in the right way. And I do believe, especially, I focus on smaller businesses, global companies. I worked at Accenture, right? They were doing it in 2008, right? That's how I started, right? They were hiring people in Argentina to do recruiting for the entire world. And so small businesses many times don't know how to go about it, but costs are lower, right? So, 40-50% lower cost in headcount, which is, amazing. Having diverse teams. When you work remote, you can hire from anywhere. And that means having more diverse teams. Diverse teams outperform other teams by almost 90%, right? So I think it's, in general, just doing good business. When you go out there and find people from anywhere, huge access to the global market talent pool. And then the other is, people typically say that, they're happy when they work remote. They can fit their personal life, they can travel. They claim 70% of people claim to be more productive when they work from home, right? So there's all these stats that just talk to the value of that. So I'm a big supporter of it.
So a technical question. So what were they using for the software? Was it GoToMeeting by Citrix, or what? Did they have their own proprietary software?
Well, so when I started, we were using, I don't know if you remember ICQ. It was a communication software, but this was like 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Then they had, at least when I was there, the Microsoft suite, so Microsoft Teams. When I moved away from Accenture, smaller businesses usually use the Google suite, a lot of Slack, right, as well. But at Accenture, we use Microsoft Teams, and it was great. I really liked it, to be honest. Yeah.
Very, very good.
So you tend to focus on small to medium sized businesses overall, yeah?
Yes, that is
And
correct.
and what attracted to you? What attracted you to working with small to medium sized businesses?
Yeah, I think that, sort of my career journey took me from large corporate like Accenture, where I started, to smaller businesses. So after Accenture, I did Boehringer Ingelheim, this, German company, which is hard to pronounce. But then Pedido Sha is, compared to Accenture, very small, 2,000 people company when I joined, then 6,000. Of course, very big, right? But it's not a small business, but it was a Latin American startup. After that, I actually went to a 60 people startup, right? So I sort of went from big corporate to smaller companies and startups. And as I transitioned through my career, you realize the advantages that, large corporate have against, or as compared to smaller businesses, right? So when I worked at my previous company, they did staffing also for US businesses. And you realize that the value proposition there was, give them access to all these amazing talent in Latin America, right? They don't know how to hire them, where to find them, how, they don't even know if they can do it, right? Accenture has been doing it for 20 years. And so, I've always wanted to do have my own business. I always had this, sort of start, entrepreneur spirit, and wanted to do my own startup. And then it really connected with my purpose, because if I'm doing this, a really interesting way to do it is doing a business that helps others do the same, right? And so I really feel it connected with my purpose of, helping others build their own business whilst I build my own business, and giving them access to something that, they wouldn't be able to access, in other ways.
Now, are the European companies doing a lot of business in Argentina, or is it
Yeah.
mostly U.S. and Canada?
That's a good question.
So yeah, so it's US and Canada businesses for the most part. Some of them already have remote teams, and so they kind of know how to go about it, but sometimes they haven't explored Latin America, or they have, but they need support. Other businesses have no idea this is an option. There's a lot of sort of staffing and remote work from India, Philippines. That's also very common. You do find challenges there, right? It's definitely more cost effective, but time zone is a challenge.
Yeah.
Cultural affinity is also a bit of a challenge. Turnover engagement, right? When you have someone working night times, it's very hard to drive that engagement, and when you have someone on the same time zone, Latin American culture is, it's very close as well to US culture. And, the energy is high, the engagement is high. People in Latin America are very used to working in this type of environment, right? So we help definitely US and Canada businesses, but we try to make it a point that it doesn't need to be. I'm biased toward Argentina, of course. I'm Argentinian, but we try to make it a point that it doesn't need to be Argentina, right? It's a huge market. Each country has its pros and cons, and depending on what you need, which country you should go to.
Interesting. So, you and I had talked about this before, and we mentioned it in your bio that you're very concerned with the cultural fit, not just somebody who can do the job. Do you find that's unique to you? Are there other are other companies less involved in that?
So what I found, I've been on both sides of the recruiting and talent side, right? I've been on the in-house helping companies hire, where we prioritize and really worked on making sure that that cultural fit was there. And then I've been on the staffing side now with my own business, but before with others. And as I got to know sort of that other side, the staffing and recruiting agency side, what I found, not all companies, of course, right? But many times I found that it was all about trying to place talent quickly. As long as they, had the checklist, they would send to the companies. And many times, smaller businesses don't really know how to assess, the cultural fit, or whether they need to assess it, or even the impact of investing the right time in that process, right? And so, when I saw that, I thought that, again, I wanted to be involved and change as much as possible. I don't definitely claim to be the only company or business that does that, but I do think it's something that has been lost in the staffing and recruiting industry, unfortunately. And so we make it a point to focus on that, because especially for smaller businesses, right? I mean, it's just, when you have someone in large companies, you have culture and subculture, and if someone leaves, then, well, it sucks, but the impact is not the same when you're, 50,000 or 100,000 and when you're a, 10 people company, right? And so that's why, we focus a lot on that. I think we're not unique in that sense, but I do think we're one of the few that really invest time on it.
And then what could U.S. companies do better to retain their talent? So once they get, you hook them up, you get somebody from Argentina working there, and then
they mess it up.
Yeah.
They just mess it up.
So what advice would you give to a company to be a better employer?
Yeah, don't mess it up. Now, so I think there's a couple of things, right? So something that I see very often is companies don't invest time in planning and executing the onboarding process, right? So especially smaller businesses, right? Because they've never done it. And it's true, right? When you're a startup, a small business, you're scrappy, you're trying to figure things out, and you build along the way. And I do it myself, and that's true, right? But making sure that you invest the time, you think about what that person needs during the first couple of weeks, how to set them up for success, and then invest the time in training them, giving them the tools, walking them through what they need to do, what their targets are, what they have, and what they don't in terms of maybe tools or resources, because when you're a small business, it's not the same resources you'll have as a large corporate company. So I think the first one is onboarding, right? That's a huge one. It's a make or break. Many companies don't invest the time on it because simply they think, well, the people will figure it out. And, people that don't have a good onboarding experience typically leave very, very quickly. And so they won't figure it out. They will leave and you're going to have a problem, right? So I think that's the first one. The second one is being very intentional in, ongoing engagement conversations, making sure that you're connecting with that person, not only on a, professional and work perspective, but on the personal side to drive engagement. And then part of those conversations need to be about what those individuals need to do and want to do, how that fits into your business goals and their roles. And then very actively create maybe spaces for discussion, for training, So, I with my team this week, we went through a training on how to we use Notion, which I'm sure a lot of small businesses do.
Yes.
And their AI is just amazing. I mean, they have this, you can build pages very, very quickly. And we went through, a 1 hour training on that. And, yes, I had to plan that. I had to think about what it would be useful, why and how it would be useful for the team. But then, if I think about the return on that investment, right, they're going to be a lot more productive. They're going to optimize their time, and they're going to use that AI very, very often. We did it this week, and a few of them already created pages and, are organizing themselves better, right? And so investing the time in training, being very intentional and trying to connect that with the business, the role, and what people want to do and, what they enjoy, I think that's very, very important. And, that's ongoing, right? You need to do that and you need to have some fun along the way, but very intentional. It's not, hey, this is what you need to do, figure it out. It's just, ongoing investing that time.
Very good. Is there a trend of a type of business that's going down there? There's small businesses. Argentina, if I remember correctly, is resource bound. So you've got tons of natural resources. What other things are going on there now?
Yeah, so we're seeing, for a long time we've seen, tech companies come here. Everything that's software development, that's been going on for a long time. We're seeing more and more marketing and advertising agencies come here. There's a lot of great talent when it comes to marketing, growth and performance, all of that. So there's a lot of companies coming here. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of content creators coming here. So, there's, great EA talent to support them with, managing day-to-day tasks and operations, copywriters. So there's a lot of great creative talent in the region. And so content creators are also coming here to the region a lot. Then, everything that's, I would say everything that's tech, but sort of the sub-industries, right? Ed tech. There's a lot of ed tech coming, right? There's a lot of, industries, retail, for example, but there's, of course, the things that, retailers can do from a remote perspective. Of course, selling something on a shop, they can do it from Argentina. But then, everything that's e-commerce, they can do. Everything that's, branding also, connected to marketing, they can do. So those are some of the industries that we see definitely a lot of growth over the last couple of years.
So I'm going to get a little edgy here and ask if you have seen a difference in terms of this new administration with the tariffs and the rules, and then the changing the minds, and today's Tuesday, it must be a 40% tariff, So yeah. Not that I have an opinion on this, but
so I think that's a difficult one, right? So what we've seen, or what I've seen, is that there is definitely a lot more questions and interest in knowing, because what we do is services, right? It's not products. But the boundaries, let's call them boundaries, to do that are not, at least yet, what you see to some products or industries with the tariffs, right? So what we've seen is connected to the risk of higher cost in different industries, the opportunity to lowering costs from another perspective, like, services and talent, is very attractive. And so we're actually seeing more questions, more interest. We're not necessarily seeing yet that means, high growth in our business. People want to explore and understand how it works, but not necessarily yet ready to execute, right? So I guess we'll have to see how things progress, but it's sort of I think what we've seen is, trying, the intention of trying to decrease costs by the fear of increased cost on, other components of the business that are not necessarily services, or talent, right?
And on the same,
I won't say anything about my political perspectives,
of course,
but I will tell you, it's definitely fun to see from afar.
So, I'm hating you a little bit right now.
So how is the political? You've got a new administration in recently. What are they doing to make it more business friendly?
How's the landscape going?
Oh yeah, it's as fun as yours, to be honest. So so it's changing radically, I would say. So just to give you a sort of sense on on how things were here 2 years ago, not that long ago, Argentina, we couldn't change currencies. We had Argentinian pesos. If we wanted US dollars, for example, we didn't have access to them. And if we travel, for example, abroad, use our credit cards, we would have taxes like 60, 70% tax on actually spending money abroad, right?
Wow.
So that was the lay of the land 2-3 years ago. So this administration is changing a lot of that, right? So they're releasing a lot of the barriers that we had for business. Businesses that would operate in Argentina in the past, they couldn't take their revenue and profit to their headquarters. Now they slowly can. There were a lot of tariffs as well. They're taking it down. Kind of the opposite of what you guys are doing over there. So that's changing. So what we're seeing is slowly more investment in some of the in some industries that we didn't see before. Retail, for example, there's a lot of brands coming to the country that had left in the past. The challenge is we're becoming a bit more expensive. So, I'm always in favor of Argentinian talent, but now I'm recommending to my clients more, for example, talent in Colombia or, in Mexico, because we become more expensive for certain type of profiles, right? So, I think things are changing radically. We have to give it time. It's like we were going left, literally, now we're going right. So we have to see how long it takes to, for things to normalize. But I think it is opening Argentina to the world a little bit more, which is good. It's just, hard to go through the transition.
So what would you, as a tip to small businesses who are looking for talent that's not just in their neighborhood, do you have tips for them, as well as do you have tips for freelancers or people who are looking for jobs to get hooked up with a company like yours? So let's do it from both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. So for companies, I think the first thing is be strategic and think about what you need, right? Many times I see businesses come with an ask, but it's not really what they need, right? And that's where maybe we come in and help them think about it, but really think about what you need as a business. I follow Dan Martell. He's a business influencer, really great content. And once he shared something that was interesting to me, which was try to take care of operations, basic operations first, right? The lower cost task on a day-to-day basis, take care of that, right? Then go to delivery, then go to marketing, then go to actual outbound and sales, and then get some management, right? And so as you go through that ladder, you're going to be able to drive more business and have less need to be invested in it. And so that's just an example for startups of I think it's a good recommendation what he built and what he said. But my point here being really think about what you need, plan first, and then go. If you don't know how to find that talent, make the investment to work with a company that can help you, at least to get advice, right? Maybe you partner with them or not, but try to talk to a few companies and then invest the time in the process, right? Don't have a 30-minute conversation with the person and then say, hey, this is the one, right? Have a few conversations, assess the technical components, maybe do an actual assessment, right? It's very common, right? Just have them do some homework and see what they come up with. And then have a natural conversation about life and see if you guys fit. And that's and those are things that are important as part of that process. But invest the time. Don't rush through that. That's what I would say for companies. For talent and people and candidates, I mean, if you go online, there's 50, 100 pages, Upwork, freelancers.com, companies like mine, Lana. There's a lot of companies that can help find remote work. So, if you do a simple Google search, you're going to find them. Fractional work is becoming also very common. And so there's a lot of opportunities there. And my recommendation for people would also be don't only just apply to a job, do your research and connect with people in the company, right? So just reach out to the manager, reach out to the recruiter, reach out to them, tell them, this is why I think it would be great to talk and why I think I would be a fit. Let's figure it out together. Because nowadays with AI, there is thousands of automated applications coming through for jobs. It's just, there's no way. I mean, it can happen, but if you apply for a job, most likely your application will be lost in the shuffle. So you want to connect with actual people to be considered.
And the best way for people to get hold of you, find you.
Yes, they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm super active. They just look for my name, Leandro Cartelli, with a double L, I will say. And I'm very active on LinkedIn. I always share tips on how to hire people, how to find jobs. And then our company is Lana Talent, and that's LA from Latin America, NA for North America. So that's easy to find. And they can look for us online. But I'm super active on LinkedIn. So if you look me up, you're going to find me.
Fantastic. And a tongue-in-cheek question? Right? Yeah. Any recent sightings of Adolf Hitler? Didn't he supposedly? It was
To
Brazil, Argentina.
In Cordoba, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, in Cordoba, there was a lot of immigration after the war.
Right.
So I don't know, it's just rumors. I can't say, I'm not allowed to talk about it. You can go to Cordoba and try to find him.
Just look for a little old man who's got a mustache that's the size of his nose.
Exactly.
This has been great.
You're going to have a good wine and enjoy your time there, right?
Right. Yeah. A nice. Yeah. And then some great. You guys have great beef down there too.
Great beef, good wine. That's my dog.
I was going to say, evidently your dog is not a beef eater, so he's upset that I mentioned.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I've been buying cowhides, and most of them are coming from Argentina.
Yeah.
And so I've got the Argentina brands, and they're all over my rugs.
There you go.
Have you tried dulce de leche? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Argentinian. That's like,
I didn't
it's
know
like
it was Argentinian.
the Argentinian Nutella, but better. So Argentinian beef, Argentinian wine, dulce de leche. That's my recommendation for everyone.
A perfect meal. All right. Thank you so much, Leandro. This was super fun.
Appreciate
it, guys. I really enjoyed the time. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Of course. All right. So that is us. I am Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
And this has been Biz-Souls. Thanks for playing.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.